Hi, everybody. My name is Mike Manning.
And I'm Trinity French.
And we are your business coaches at Wired to Change.
With the number 2.
Our job and our goal and our passion is to help you get your business to the level you want it to be so you can enjoy the life of a small business owner.
And our life as a small business owner includes something amazing that we get to do every week, twice. And it's our conversation topic for today, which is podcasting.
Why, how, and what took you so long?
Oh, man, we love it. If you're listening to this show and if you're a loyal listener, and that means you listened to our last show, and we're going to ask you again to go out, rate, review, and subscribe our show because we are looking to grow our podcast. We want to be up there with the top echelon of awesome podcasters, and we're going to talk to you today about the joys, the sorrows, the fun, the trials, the tribulations of what it feels like to make and produce a podcast. And we also have a very, very, very special guest, Mr. Drago.
Thank you for having me.
Purple Comma Studios. And we are very indebted to you because you make the podcast possible.
I try to be helpful when I can. That's the name of my game.
Every Thursday at 3 p.m. Eastern Time, we come up to the Purple Comma Studios in Cary, North Carolina, and Drago's waiting for us. We got microphones. We got stuff ready to go. We got some kick-ass coasters for our drinks and our phones so they don't vibrate forever. And he takes great care of us. You know things are good when you're able to walk in, sit down, and say, okay, we're ready. And that's all the effort we put into it once we walked in. So, yeah.
But there are a lot of people that have great podcasts that do it on their own, which is another way you totally can record and produce it and do it on your own. We just so happen to know the best of the best. And we decided when we were going to jump in, that we weren't just going to tip a toe in the water. We were going in whole hog. And here we are.
And it's a wonderful studio. This is Studio B because we outgrew Studio A. Is that correct?
Yeah, you can say that. Absolutely. Yeah. It's the truth. That's what happened.
Joe, how many other podcasts do you produce?
Right now, 7.
Okay.
And if somebody that's local to the area said, man, I love this podcast that Mike and Trinity do, and I want to do a podcast, and I want Drago to produce my podcast, how would they get a hold of you?
The best way would be to check out purple-podcasting.com.
That's a lot of
lots of pups. And hopefully the audio's crystal clear because we've got pop filters on these.
Ooh, that's fancy. I don't even know what that means, but I like it.
Yep. It's all about having good audio quality. That's one of the most important parts of having a podcast.
Well, and there's two things for people that listen to podcasts. I'm gone in about 12 seconds if neither one of these are good. The audio really has to be good, but we don't need 7 minutes of intro to get to the point. So that's why.
I'm just like you. I need a quick to the point, let's get started type of thing. Yeah.
Why should people...
So we shouldn't just chit-chat and shoot the shit for the next 10 minutes?
Probably not. Yeah, we should intertwine it, interweave it into all this. Yes, so those are new words. The value of podcasting in today's world is what, Drago?
Oof, where do I get started? There's so many benefits. I guess we'll talk about the first one. One of the reasons I like it most, it's a quote unquote easier way to kind of build your authority in a given area. So not a lot of people have the ability to write blogs and articles. They're not gifted writers. Anyone can talk. Mm-hmm. Get in front of a microphone, talk about your craft, let people know you're an expert, what you do. It will come out. People will hear the way you talk, the inflection in your voice. It will be noticeable.
We like it because it allows us to meet people as well and have people people we know, but this deepens the relationship.
It sure does. And I'll be really excited when we start bringing on guests that we don't know as well, too, because one of the things I miss from my old recruiting days is meeting brand new people.
Yes.
And now that I'm married, I'm missing it doubly because there's nothing that I loved more than a first date.
And we choose not to do a Zoom or GoToMeeting guest so far. Not to say that we wouldn't forever, but we like the intimacy of being in the studio.
The back and forth.
Whereas, like Trinity said, there are podcasts on Facebook. Mm-hmm. Not really on LinkedIn because they don't allow that long a video, but they're just two people sitting on Zoom or GoToMeeting, and that's a podcast. And you know what? That's a podcast.
That's a podcast.
There's no rule on anything. Just if you have, and then let's talk about the difference between video and audio podcast. What are your thoughts on either or?
At the end of the day, there's in reality, there's no difference because at the end of the day, you're listening to both of them. The only thing is if you're in a position and if you're trying to build a brand name in a certain way and you can afford the extra video on top of that, it's always a good thing to add. But right now, especially in the what I call the Wild West days of podcasting, because this is all still fresh in my opinion, you can more than get away with building an entire brand off just audio. The video right now is definitely an added bonus. It is not a requirement at this time.
And I will tell you, audio is a whole lot easier to edit than video.
Video's a whole nother beast. Don't even get me started.
Because I can't find a really good free software package for video, but audio, Audacity, man, if I can figure it out, hey, it can be done.
It's audio is definitely very doable on a budget, and not only on a budget, but with less intense tools, so to speak.
It does change the perception of people when they hear you have a podcast, doesn't it?
It does.
Yeah, people kind of look at you a little and you get to peacock a little and say, yeah, I have a podcast. And you know what? People listen to me. And yeah, I get fan mail. I mean, come on now. It's a legit thing. But it's amazing to me how many people assume that we should have a podcast.
Really?
Yes.
Interesting.
So a lot of times when I tell people,
Yeah.
my podcast, they're like, oh,
Do
yeah,
tell.
I would totally expect you to have a podcast.
Because of our personalities or our profession?
Our personalities. And just and I guess because I'm bossy.
Yeah, but you're funny and well, more importantly, you're interesting. That's rule number one is a lot of people funny, but they're not interesting to be around. They're just, because after a while, it's like, are you going to get to the point?
Well, my theory behind that is that you have to be funny and interesting and intelligent because you can't always be pretty.
We can't. You can.
Yeah. Well, I mean, your looks are going to fade eventually. We're all going to get older.
No, well, I'll agree with the second statement, but the first statement, 59 plus, holding up all right.
You look fantastic, but
you.
that is so unfair because guys are able to age so much better than women.
And if you don't think life is not fair for women, and it's not, the expectations and the crap thrown at women about what they should look like, look at your local news, the 60-year-old male anchor, and you're not going to find a 60-year-old female anchor.
No, you're just the
not.
hot little.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
You're just
Never
not.
actually thought about that.
Yep. You are so right.
You can if you look at your local news or ESPN, if you're sports related, anything like that, CNN, Fox, you're going to find an older guy. And you're like, why? They look like, he's still alive, but the content's good. And you are not going to find a woman that age. Rarely.
Unless you were Diane Walters on like 2020.
Barbara Walters.
Yes.
But yes, that's a great point.
But that was a one-off because there's not that many Barbara Walters. There was only one.
Exactly, yeah. But
I can't think of any others.
Yeah. So if you are not, and there are many people that are not comfortable with the way they look either on camera or on video, so just do an audio podcast.
That's
Just
advice
start
right there.
And I'm involved, or I'm part of some podcasting Facebook groups. And one of the questions usually with somebody who's just starting their podcast, hey, I'm new to podcasting. I have a couple questions. One of the first questions always is, how long should my show be? How long's your content good for?
Right.
Some people do 10-minute podcasts. That's a podcast. We go 35 to 40 to 42 minutes. We go for as long as the content will take us, because that's how long people would stay interested. If the content's good, people will stay usually.
Yeah. With our podcast, usually we cut it off because the content's starting to get done.
Yeah.
Or we are like, man, this show is running so long that we need to stop it and continue it on our next podcast.
Yes, and we do 2 shows. If we did just one show every time, there's some guests, I'm not kidding, could go an hour and 20 minutes and it would be good content. But you can't go an hour and 20 with everybody. So your podcast should be, and here's another question. They're like, I'm thinking about doing a podcast. What should I do one on? And not unanimous, but it's so damn close, is what do you want to talk about?
Yeah,
That's all.
They're pretty close.
Yeah.
They're pretty close.
What do you want to talk about? Oh, health, social media. You may have 3 things you want to talk about: real estate, business coaching, grandparenting. You may want, but that's fine. But what? Because it'll show up.
That's what I was about to say.
Real
People are
fast.
gonna hear if you're not interested.
If I'm bored in the subject matter, biology, chemistry, physics, any of that, you're going to know in about 3 minutes. Like, why the hell am I listening to this guy? So find out what you want to talk about, what you're passionate about, because it comes out easy, it comes out quick, and it comes out authentic.
Yeah, I get a lot of people once they find out that we have a podcast that also mention that they are very interested in being a podcaster.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm always encouraging them that it does not take a whole lot to get started. You can get started in your bedroom. I know a lot of people that podcast from their closets because the acoustics are so good. And it's just a matter of getting out there and starting talking. And I think one of the funniest things that I love to do is to go back and listen to our very earliest podcast. And believe it or not, I'm like, damn, we're kind of good. Like, I like going back and listening to our earlier podcasts because they had a lot of good content, which is the reason we were able to keep going.
Yeah. If we're looking around Drago's studio, are these baffles, Drago? What do I call these? Black cushions?
They're acoustic panels.
Acoustic
I don't know
panels
what you
on
wanna
the
call them
wall,
besides
strategically placed. You can do close to the same thing by going, like Trinity said, in your closet, strategically hanging clothes, because you don't want the
Absolutely.
sound bouncing off the wall coming back to you. The clothes will absorb the sound.
Great
That's
tip.
how you can get started very cheap.
Great tip.
Buy a Blue Ice microphone, plug it into your computer, and hit record.
And voila.
Yeah.
You're
That's how simple it
podcasting.
can be. And if your content's good, people will find you.
Yep.
We don't
that
care.
will absolutely work. Yep.
I don't. The podcasts I listen to, I don't care where they tape them.
You don't know.
No.
I have no idea.
Have no
never
idea.
dawned on
For
me to
all
ask.
anyone knows,
Yeah.
we could be in a closet right now.
Yeah.
We could. We're actually recording the No Pants podcast right now.
No
I
one
don't
would
have
know.
any pants on
That's the beauty of no
because
video,
I'm
just
wearing
audio.
a dress.
Bada bing.
Oh, sneaky.
She'll be here all week, folks. Yeah. But it's that simple to get started. You don't need $10,000 and $12,000 worth of equipment and a perfect studio and paying $1,800 a month of rent for a studio or whatever it's going for. Just start.
Yep.
You'll figure it out.
That's one of the biggest tips. It sounds simple, and you just said it nonchalantly, but just starting is one of the largest barriers to entry. They really think, and I was in the same boat. I thought I had to have everything perfectly set up, but had someone told me about the clothes in the closet trick, I would have probably started much sooner.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But if you just get started, do 2. Have your 2 best friends on, one on the first one on the second one, and then listen back to it. You'll learn a ton.
I found out when I was in Michigan that my brother records a podcast with his friends. And it's just, I was like, man, I need to find this podcast and listen to it. And then I was really pissed that he doesn't listen to my podcast.
Well-
So Rance and Daniel Greger, you better get your ass
Called
downloaded
out.
and start listening to my stinking podcast. Because he's a small business owner. He
I
would
know.
be.
We've talked about him
Yes.
before
Yeah, you can
with the
benefit from
dogs,
this.
right?
No, he has the chickens
Or the
and pigs.
Oh, a friend of his had the. Okay,
Yeah, his
okay,
friends had the
gotcha.
dogs, yep.
All right. But here's the other thing, and that's a great point to bring up. Do not assume your family's automatically going to listen, not to every one of your podcasts, but any of them. And don't assume when you promote it and all your friends like your post and say, oh, Trinity and Mike are wonderful, you should check this out, that they're listening. So, because if you get 400 likes on a post and you know only 200 people are listening to that episode, okay, it's a math equation right there. But that's fine. But you need to do it for the reason you want to do it. And if you want to educate on first-time home buyers, here's a best podcast ever on first-time home buyers. Do it. You're educating. Somebody's going to benefit from that. If you want to talk about cancer survivors, do it. There's a million things to have a podcast on. There are a million.
really is, yeah.
The crime and drama genre in podcasting is the biggest one right now. There are thousands,
You're not kidding.
and there's
That's
room.
over- Go ahead, yeah.
There's room for more.
Scott can't get enough of the murder porn.
Yeah.
He just eats it up. And I'm not as big of a fan of those, the true crime and the murders and the, I would prefer to watch like Dateline or something. It just gets a little too creepy for me. I like to keep things positive and upbeat, more so than dark.
That was a big surprise for me. Right now, here in 2020, if you put together, I guess, what do you want to call it, the crime genre? If you lump the crime genre together with authors, that's over half of my clientele.
Yeah.
Wow.
I had no idea that the crime drama was such a big thing in podcasting.
Oh, it's massive. Yeah.
Huge. You can make an argument. It might be the number one topic.
Yeah.
It might be the biggest topic.
It might be, because either that and then health and wellness. And then there's a ton of podcasts on like business and investing and, motivational, just the overall, just motivational speaking. But
looking at like the top, I don't know what it is on iTunes, top 50 or top 100, I want to say most of them are the crime drama.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
And
the
we wanna be
overwhelming
there.
majority.
Yes, we want to break into that top 50, so share us.
we do.
We
very
do.
much.
Oh
You
my
do?
gosh, I want to be on the top 50
You
so
have
bad.
no idea how
And
much
that goes
we
back
want
to
to
the
be.
last podcast. You got to ask for the
We
testimonial.
have
You
to
got to
ask
ask
for
for the review.
testimonial.
That's
Ask
how
for
we
the
get there.
review. Share us.
Yep. But pick the subject you want to talk about is the first question you have to answer. And it doesn't matter what the answer is. That's the answer. If it's a passion or a business or both, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Just pick because you want to show up every Thursday talking about something that fires you up. Again, I go back to 5th period biology in high school. They could have given me money to go to that class, and I still wouldn't go because the content sucked. Because I was bored. I know.
Gosh, I loved biology.
Exactly. So then you do a biology podcast and you listen because I won't be, but there will be enough people. And again, do you really care how many people listen? What's your goal for it? Do you want to monetize it? Do you just want to educate it? Do you hope if it serves 10 people are benefited by that? Great. But talk about what you want to talk about. Don't let somebody talk you into something. Oh, you'd be good at this. I don't know. I'd really rather talk about this than talk about this.
That's the way I'd do it.
Yeah, it's just all about getting your feet wet, getting going. There are a lot of benefits to having a podcast. I would say that it definitely helps elevate us in terms of being an expert in our area. In the coaching realm, there are a ton of business coaches out there. There are also life coaches.
So
there's not a ton of business coaches that do podcasting.
Right.
So that is a differentiator. Thank you for pointing that out, Drago. And it's also a way for our clients to get additional information from us when we're not meeting with them. So we can refer them to a specific episode, or they can listen to all of the episodes. It also allows us to get out just the things that we're really, what Mike said, what we're really passionate about, because there's a ton of topics that we could talk about that have to do with it being in business, but we're not experts in all of those topics, which is why we bring people on.
Your husband just added to his Snapchat history. I just got a
did?
notification. Live. I know. No idea what it is. I was just trying to figure out Snapchat, but that's another podcast. So.
Yeah.
But we are 2 Scotts and Chad that we know listen to all of our podcasts. We thank you for that.
We do.
But it does build credibility, and believe it or not, if you listen to a podcast and you get 2 nuggets, consider that a success. Because you can't implement 40 minutes of somebody's podcast. You just can't, and nor will you hear it where you can apply it.
At least not the first time, right?
Right.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. You would need to, and a lot of the podcasts that I listen to of other people, because even though we produce a podcast, I'm also a podcast consumer.
Me too.
Voracious consumer of any great content that I can get my little paws on. And there are some that I go back and listen to multiple times.
Likewise.
And then there's also some times where I'm like, I'm just not feeling it today. I'm going to skip this one and wait for the next one to come out.
And here's another thing that it does. It gives you a library of content. And what we do is we'll post our shows. And then if there's a snippet On an off day of the show, we'll put the snippet out. So again, the name's out there, but you're promoting someone else. So Drago will say something, no doubt, worth the world knowing about, going on Mount Rushmore here in the next couple of minutes. And I'll edit a snippet and I'll say, hey, here's why you should have a podcast. And it's Drago's voice. I introduce it, Drago Bratic, owner of Purple Comma, where we tape our podcast. And then it's his words talking about that. So I'm posting that. So I'm highlighting someone else, but it gets our name out there. Oh, Mike and Trinity have a podcast. That's right. And Drago, oh, I didn't know he did this. And boom. So that's another value to that, which I enjoy.
Easy way to create content right there.
Oh, yeah. And then I'm starting to write blogs from these podcasts. I'll listen to them and trying to write that. So, again, talking about that. So we get that on our website. It's new content. They can put it on theirs, but I've also mentioned them. So Google somewhere sees that and thinks, oh.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I didn't know you were doing that. We haven't chatted about that.
Working on it.
Okay,
I'm not as consistent as I should be. The one thing I need to start doing is linking. So if I send, last week we had Brian Smith with iWatch. So it's on his website, linked back to ours or vice versa. How are we doing that? Because Google loves that.
Yeah, so you always want folks linking back to your website.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
That's how
because
you want it.
Google loves that.
Yeah.
They want new,
So yeah,
they want current.
You write an article about that podcast on your website, link to that particular podcast at the end of the article, you're golden.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And it teaches you how to work Canva.
Yeah, Canva's a great tool.
Oh,
I love
I'm learning
Canva.
that. Yeah.
Yes.
I haven't gone to the paid one yet, but the free one gives me just enough for right now what I'm learning. So, and you have some fun. You get to take some goofy pictures and put them up there. It does all kinds of things. People have a lot of fun when they come in here. We're fun and we make it interesting for them and easy for them.
Yeah.
We have no interest in a gotcha moment. None.
That doesn't help anybody.
No. So they come in.
Yet.
Right. Well, depending on, There's a couple we should have.
Because there's a couple of people that I want to get back on the show and be like, dun, 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 dun.
The hell, yeah. But it also gives them a chance to talk about their business, their expertise, and that's the subject matter. So it's a win-win with everybody.
Really is.
And we get to interview and talk with some amazingly interesting people.
Yes.
And a lot of times we get into conversations about stuff that if you're doing just a typical one-to-one, you're not going to ask those questions. Well, you might, Mike, but I wouldn't typically ask those questions at a one-to-one. But you probably would.
I do, yes.
Yeah.
And I'm fine with that, but I'm halfway decent at getting into it. And we talked about, I know you loved your interview with Brian. Mm-hmm. You said it was one of your favorites, and I listened to it. I totally agree. For me, we go back to when Susie Silver was on, and she's a local artist, but she is very instrumental in the LGBT community. Susie's got a wife. They have 2 kids, and Susie allowed me to do a third podcast with her. This is back when you weren't feeling good. I don't know if you had coronavirus back then or not, but
I might have.
You might have. Looking back on it, you might have. But Susie and I am as straight, old, white male as you're going to find. And Susie let me ask her any question I wanted to. They were clunky, but they were respectful. And I learned so much because we talked about the pronouns. We talked about, oh gosh, what didn't we talk about? But I learned so much from that. So for me, I was getting educated. I love doing that. So you never know what's going to come out of a podcast because we start with talking points. We don't start with a script. We start with talking points, and it takes 6 minutes to get all of that onto something else.
We have a couple of tangents
now
and again,
which is good.
But the tangents are great.
That's
Get
why
on a
people
rip,
listen,
and it makes it a lot of fun.
Yeah,
especially when I get to make fun of you.
Oh, and why not do that? I welcome
great
that.
Pleasure in that.
Yeah. My sister-in-law, Holly, who will not be listening to this, but just because she doesn't listen to it, I sometimes push people because I'll gig them because I can take it. Very few things bother me. Hardly anything anybody could say that was going to bother me. So I sometimes push more than I should. And this was Saturday night. Her daughter got married. So Sunday morning, we're sitting out there on the back porch right after breakfast. I said, Holly, and I love my sister-in-law. And I said, hey, just so you know I push sometimes. So if I get to a point with that, I said, I gave her a signal. I said, you just do this. You don't need to say anything. Just look at me and go, hey, give me the signal, and I'll stop because I push.
Is the signal her flipping you the bird?
No, but she did that, and she felt bad about that. She gave me the F-bomb and the finger, which I love. That's my goal. Is for somebody to you and then flip me the bird, right? She goes, I felt real bad. She said, I was laying in bed. I thought, should I go apologize to him? I'm like, no, I welcome that. So that's fine, but I can get people going too much. So, but anyways, I don't know how we got on. Oh, speaking of tangents. Yeah, that's how we got on that. So, yeah.
A tangent got us on a tangent.
But you also can reach new audiences.
You can. You reach new audiences. You can, it can help grow your business. If your prospects are listening to you, if you're getting your podcast in the right area. I think that one of the biggest benefits that I get out of our podcasting is it's a place for us to file away the things that we know about. And it gives us a catalog of our expertise, which is just amazing because I go back and I re-listen to our podcast and I'm like, did I say that? I sounded really smart.
That was
good. Who thought? Did I really have that thought?
Who said that?
Who said that?
Because sometimes when you have...
And then every once in a while I'm like, man, Mike, that was a really, really good comment you made.
Twice you've said that, yes. I've got them both
Two
cataloged.
really good comments.
Got them cataloged. And so now when because I edit the show, if somebody pisses me off, I just leave it in there. Okay, I'm going to let you sound stupid. I'm not going to edit it.
Like when you are going to edit me and I'm like, no, leave those moments
I know,
in there.
and I do, yeah, I do. So, yeah.
I don't mind being the goofball of the show.
No, it's natural what you get here. But again, it allows us, when we've coached on a topic with one of our clients, this gives us the format to talk more about that because chances are they're not the only one going through that. We talked with a client this morning, the fear of calling someone out of the blue.
Yeah.
You could just see it on her face. It just mortified her to call somebody, and she's doing market research about her business to learn more.
Not even a sales call,
No.
just a marketing research call.
To somebody referred to her by a client so she could drop their name. And you could and it was a video call. We were on GoToMeeting. But the look on her face, it just mortified her so she hadn't done it yet. We're going on 4 weeks. And she hadn't done that, but most of us have that. And the fear is, we got to the point finally.
We did. Finally. We had to dig. We had to ask a lot of questions, which as good business coaches is what we do, is ask powerful questions.
And I thought her answer was going to be they're going to hang up on me or they won't give me the business. But her fear was they wouldn't answer the question.
Yeah.
Because she was going to say, pitch what she's doing, not a sales pitch, but just say, wanted to get your feedback, you being in this market, is this a service you would pay for? Or how much would you pay, I think is the question. Yeah. And her biggest fear was, what if they don't give me an answer?
Mm-hmm.
Just hang up, move on.
Well, and Trinity said, go to the next question.
Yeah.
And the look on her face was like, really?
Yeah.
It's that simple?
That's simple.
But it took us that long to get to that point. And again, what you think may be the reason isn't.
Might not.
But Trinity kept digging.
Which is why I
why?
love coaching because as coaches, we can't assume that we know the answer. Mm-hmm. And Mike and I had this conversation because a lot of times after our coaching sessions, we get together and talk about how the coaching session went.
It was me today.
Well, and it was, yeah.
It was.
And the problem with what Mike was doing today is that it's not necessarily a problem because you were giving a lot of good information. You were just giving too much information.
I was helping instead of asking today.
Yes.
Yeah. And I knew that when we got off. It's like, crap.
Yeah. But we reconvened. We had some really powerful questions that were asked of her. Mm-hmm. She dug deep today.
She did.
It was a really powerful session. Yeah. And I think that we grew as coaches. Mm-hmm. And now we get to rehash it here again on our podcast.
Yeah, and that's the beauty of it because she's not the only one going through that. And part of the presentation, part of the introduction of what she was doing had industry speak. And Trinity goes, hang on a sec. You need to be in the mindset, I'm talking to a friend. And you don't use industry speak. Mm-mm. Drago, how's your day going?
It's going good.
Right. Instead of Drago, I have this with you. No.
because it comes across as a sales pitch now instead of a marketing. And this had just happened to me. And when I shared that story with her, because somebody reached out to me that I had met, a couple years ago, and he is trying to launch something in the real estate realm. So he reached out to me and said, hey, you're the first person I thought of. Probably wasn't, but it felt good to hear that, right?
Another man lying to another woman.
And that's okay. You lie to me all day long. And he said, you're the first person I thought of as an industry expert. I want to pick your brain a little bit and see what you think about the service that I'm thinking about launching before I invest a bunch of money,
all this money into
something that might be a really bad idea. And I was like, absolutely, get on my calendar. And we're meeting tomorrow. And I'm more than happy to help him with that, because I know that when I was getting started in business, or when any of our clients are looking to either pivot, add a service, get started, that it can be absolutely terrifying to invest a bunch of money in something that you haven't figured out whether or not anyone actually even wants it or is willing to pay for it.
And one of the things we talked about was all the answers are going to help you. Even if it's not the answer you want.
Not the one you want. Yep.
Because if you called 10 people in that industry and none of them even hinted they want that service, okay, let's regroup. But if enough of them said, oh, yeah, well, we'll get to the price later. You just want to find out, oh, this is needed in this industry. And part of the introduction was this client was going to say, I'm calling because Drago suggested I give you a call, and Drago said, by the way, you guys, you're a pretty good golfer. Just something like that puts that person at ease. But it's like, oh, well, if you know Drago, okay, you must be all right. Sure, how can I help you? Instead of saying, hey, I have this company, I want to approach your industry, and I have 12 questions.
Way different approach there.
You're like, I got to go. I've got my other lines beeping, right? So, but we were getting to that to get over all those fears of, and it came down to she was just afraid they wouldn't answer the question. Yep. So you wouldn't know what to charge, and then we got into, are we overcharging? To which Trinity said, we're all undercharging.
We're all
no
undercharging.
matter what we think, we're all undercharging.
Yeah.
I mean, we peeled back a lot of onion layers, levels. Yeah. There's levels to onions. No, there's not. Layers today.
Oh, and onions raw are so good to eat.
Oh, yeah.
What? You are such a weirdo.
I just peel them out. As I'm cutting them up, I'm eating like a third of it. Oh, yeah. Now, sauteed, they're even better. But, yeah, I'll eat them raw right there, because on Saturday or Sunday morning, I'll cut up onions and green peppers and tomatoes to put in the eggs. Yeah. Becky will, scramble eggs, all that stuff in there.
Just pop a few in your mouth.
And she'll wake up and she goes, oh, you've been cutting onions? Because I'll kiss her good morning. She goes, onions, huh?
Onions.
Like, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Only a third of it is gone.
You and me both.
Just out of the bowl. Just leave it on the counter. I'll eat that all
like
day
chips.
long. So, yep. Oh, yeah.
Well, this has been a lot of fun. I think the name of this podcast is The Ultimate Tangent, because we totally switched from talking about podcasting to one of our clients, but it was
educational.
It's educational. It's a story.
It's a story.
Yeah, but that's why you should talk about what you're passionate about, because stories like that will come out on how you can help people.
And it came out organically.
It did.
It just came out.
Yeah. Because I got a phone call from her when it was over. That's why it came out. And I knew it when we logged off. I'm like, shit. Because I knew it. It's like, oh, don't call. Oh, she called. And she was right.
Don't do it.
But she was right, too. I did. I offered too many answers. And I knew that. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's one of the benefits, though, of us coaching together, is that we can monitor that so much better than when you're coaching on your own.
Oh, yeah.
Because then you're self-monitoring and it becomes a little bit more difficult. So having the two perspectives, benefits our clients immensely. Yep. And we're just going to grow and continue being better and doing things for our clients that wow them, like opening her eyes to the fact that she should be charging more. So.
Yeah, no, that we did come to. We all came in agreement on that. So, for people who are thinking about podcasting, just start. Do one at home, and worry about the audio second. And confirm if I'm right on this. Worry about the audio second. First of all, is the content good? Because that's why people are going to tune in. I'll put up with audio that's 7.5 out of 10. If the
If
content's
the content
good,
is absolutely amazing.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'll
put
do
up
that.
with it, yeah.
I'll put up with a 9 for pretty good content. So the content has to be good.
Yeah, it's got to be.
You have to be comfortable talking about it, and you're gonna say deal with it.
what
Early
editing's
on,
for.
you're just going
You're
to
going to do it, but that's
you're
okay.
gonna well, no, yeah, but my favorite is we all do this. No, yeah, when you're answering a question, we've all done that. You're gonna do that. Deal with that later. But the pacing of it, how long you want to talk, who's your guest, do you ask good questions, are you getting them involved so they can educate and entertain? Just do a couple and then figure it out. Oh, that was fun, but I need to upgrade my microphone. So upgrade your microphone. Then you do a little bit more. It's like, yeah, we need to get into a studio. And then you call Drago and your problems are solved. But just
Or
start.
just call Drago from day one.
You could. You
could.
could. Yeah.
Yeah.
Always happy to help.
But be passionate about it.
That's the key. You got to be passionate.
it'll-
Because it'll come out if you do.
Oh, yeah.
So
That's the biggest
we're
feedback.
here locally in Raleigh. Actually, we're in Cary.
Mm-hmm.
but
Technically, yeah.
Raleigh, North Carolina, the Triangle. So if you are a local listener and want to get a hold of Drago, again, it is Purple Studios.
Purple-podcasting.com.
Podcasting.com.
Yep.
Woo! That is a tongue twister.
Tongue twister.
And Drago would be more than happy to talk with you and see you can come over here and use the studio and make some ultimate amazing podcasts.
Or if my fellow rednecks are listening, if you're a local yokel, then please give Drago a buzz at purple-podcasting.com and he'll help you. But just find what you're passionate about. Do a couple of them, see what you think. It gives you another reason to post on social media, if anything else.
I was about to say a closing thought. It's always going to provide you with more content.
Oh, yeah.
Even though it might not be your best that one time because it's your first, second, third podcast.
Yeah.
It's still creating content. Someone still has a chance of reading it, listening to it, whatever, watching it. And at the end of the day, that could lead to more business somehow.
And we talk all the time, and this is, if there's 2 or 3 things I'm going to put on Trinity's headstone, if she goes first, is she just loves to learn. And stuff
Yeah.
like this has allowed me, at least, there's different ways to post on LinkedIn versus Facebook versus Instagram versus Twitter. So you get to learn that language of what people want on there, the types of hashtags to help you grow. So there's another world out there. And if you're even remotely interested in how that works, man, this is one of those ways to figure it out.
Yeah, the whole podcasting thing could be a great outlet for you if you're one
Oh,
of those
yeah.
people who likes to learn and then talk about what you've learned.
And I just want to talk all day. So,
Well,
and
you got the voice for it.
you and I, thank you. You and I talked, this was probably a year ago. We actually had a conversation about doing a 3-hour show. Not kind of like Joe Rogan, but nowhere near that level. I don't think we're going to get $4.5 million a year. But just, I would love to
I
have
would
been.
love to just get paid to do drugs and drink. So,
Nice.
right? I mean, Joe Rogan has it made.
He's got it made pretty nice.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
He can
But
do
we-
whatever he wants.
He just does whatever he wants on air. He
Yeah.
gets famous people to come talk to him.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, Joe, if you're out there, we would love to be
You will be our first Zoom guest on here. But we'd even talked about what would a 3-hour show look like with a kind of a co-host, maybe not, but just rotating guests and every day. And we agreed that it would be a daunting task to do every day. But there's all kinds of options because the airways are free.
Yeah, there's nothing stopping anyone from
Nothing.
experimenting with a new
No.
format. There's no barrier right now. That's the beauty of this.
But I'd love to have a morning talk show. That would still be great. But again, you got to figure out, is it worth it? Because there's a lot more that goes into that than, 2 taped podcasts.
Bring-
I
bring-
want a
bring
show
in the
called
live
The
stream
Morning
element.
After Show.
The morning after show.
I was running channels last night, and Amy Schumer was on. This was an old clip from her.
Oh, that's who I picked as my famous person that would play me in a movie.
Without a doubt, without a doubt. But she was talking about pregnant, and she goes, or having sex, and then some people take the morning after pill. I forget how she said it, but basically she takes it the night before, just to be safe. No, I don't think that's how it works. But
I
never
love
mind.
her.
I
She's
know.
so funny.
She is funny.
But yeah, she could so play you.
Yes.
Yep, that would be the
I didn't think about that, but now you bring it up. Yeah.
the smiles and just the
Her
The
crassness.
jovialness.
Yeah.
The jovialness.
Yeah.
She's super crass.
oh yeah. Yeah, with a smile.
love it. With a
Yeah.
smile.
Stabs you in the back with a smile. Go, bless your heart. So, but call us, email Drago if you have any questions whatsoever. We're more than happy to help. There's room for everybody, so it's not like we're trying to keep people out or we won't talk to you. Even if you're another business coach, hell, give us a call, shoot us an email. We'll help you.
And we are always on the lookout for amazing guests. So if there's someone that you know that you think would be an awesome guest on our show, email us info@wiredtochange.com with the number 2. And we would be happy to talk to them and see if we can get them on here to be a guest on our podcast.
But they have to be a good storyteller. They may be the nicest person in the world, but if they answer yes, no, it's going to be a bad show. They have to help us promote the show.
Yep.
Because we happy to have them on here, but in return, it's always nice to help everybody help promote the show, so the most number of listeners can listen to everybody on the show. So, anything else you want to add, Drago?
No, you summed up pretty well. And just to reiterate, just get started.
Yeah.
Just if it's going to be in the closet, just get started.
And if you have any questions, we are all here and happy to answer.
And with that, we will see you next time on our Wired to Change podcast.